Hey guys, Miss Shelly. All right, so we are gonna move it along into topic 6. And our very first thing we're going to talk about in topic 6 is six systems of a linear equation. Now, this is just an introduction, so let's go ahead and dive in. What is a system of linear equation? Well, it's formed by two or more linear equations that use the same variables. So for this lesson, we're going to be using our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. All right. Now, a solution to systems of linear equation are any ordered pairs that makes all the equations in the system true. Okay. So now that we've kind of done some definitions, let's look at three different types of linear equations. Okay. The very first one, when we have different slopes. Okay, so when we look at our two lines here, we see that these two lines intersect. They're y equals x plus 4, y equals negative x plus 6. So our slopes, both 1, but one is positive and one is negative. So this one is positive 1, whereas this slope is negative 1. Okay, so that's two different slopes. Since they have two different slopes, then we're going to look at their y-intercepts. Their y-intercepts are also different, 4 and 6. So this means that they are only going to intersect at one point. So whenever our slopes and our y-intercepts are different, then the system only has one solution. It'll only meet one place. Okay, so different slopes and different y-intercepts, one solution. Let's take a look at another example. This time we're going to look at what happens when you have the same slope but different y-intercepts. So for here we have two lines, y equals x plus 3 and y equals x plus 1. So we have the same slope. Both of our slopes are 1. So this slope is 1, this slope is 1. Now we're going to look at our y-intercepts, 3 and 1. They are different. Since they have the same slope but different y-intercepts, that means that the lines are not going to intersect, okay? They're parallel lines. So for all of eternity, these two lines right here will not intersect, okay? Since these two lines aren't going to intersect, that means that they can have no solutions. Okay, so in a couple slides, we're going to actually put all of this information into a chart. I would highly recommend pausing the video at that point and writing this all down. This lesson is pretty simple, but you have to remember same slope, different slope, y-intercepts, different slopes, different y-intercepts, and that things. There's 3 of them that you have to know. So when you have the same slopes, for this instance, we both have 1, but you have different y-intercepts, your solution is parallel lines, so they have no solutions. Okay, so let's move on and let's look at what happens when we have the same slope and the same y-intercepts. So as you can see, I only have one line here. And that's because if I solve for both equations, I put them in my y equals mx plus b, it'll give me the exact same formula. Therefore, that means that the lines, they intercept at every single point because it's the same line. So when you have the same slope and the same y-intercept, your system has infinitely many solutions because it's the same line. Same line. So same. Okay, we can remember same slope, same y-intercept, same line. All right, so now let's take these 3 different systems of equations that we've just talked about, and let's actually graph them into a table to help us remember. Like I said, if I were you, I would pause, or if you print my notes out, this would be a good time to make sure you fill them in. But if you don't print my notes out, that's fine. Grab a sheet of paper and copy this down, okay? This is going to really help you through this chapter, okay? Because like I said, this stuff isn't hard. It's pretty simple, but it's definitely remembering, okay, well, what happens if I have different y-intercepts, but I have the same slope? What happens if I have the different slopes, but the same y-intercept? So this chart is really going to make it really simple for you. So let's go ahead and fill it in. If I have slopes and parallel lines, that means that my slope is the same. So same slopes give me parallel lines. Well, if I have parallel lines, what happens to my y-intercepts? Are they the same or are they different? Well, if they're parallel lines, your y-intercepts are going to be different. So how many solutions do I have with parallel lines? 0, because they will never intercept. Remember, this whole thing is we're trying to figure out when are these lines going to intercept and when are they not. Okay, so what about lines that intercept once? Okay, so it intercepts at one point only. What kind of slopes do they have? Well, they have to have different slopes, right? Because they cannot intercept if they don't at least have different slopes. What about y-intercepts? Okay, so y-intercepts means that they can either have the same y-intercept or different y-intercepts. All right, and then I think it tells us kind of self-explanatory, lines that intercept once, how many numbers of solutions are there? Well, I mean, if they intercept one time, then that means they have one solution. All right, so now let's recap the lines that are the same. What happens, what kind of slope do lines have if they're the same? Well, that means they have the same slope. Remember, same line, same slope, same y-intercept. Same. And the number of solutions would be infinitely many. All right, guys. So like I said before I introduce this, if I were you and you don't print my notes out, I would pause the video real quick and I would copy this down because this is going to help you with your assignments. Okay, so let's move on and let's look at some examples. So it says, how many solutions does the system of equations have? Okay, well, let's take a look at our slope, okay? So I have x and 2x. Are they the same or are they different? They're different, right? One's 1x, one's 2x. So 1 and 2 are different. So that means that my answer, the number of solutions this equation is going to have, is going to be 1. Okay, so let's take a look at my next one. Y equals negative 3x plus 5 and y equals negative 3x minus 5. Let's first take a look at my slope. Do I have same slopes or different slopes? Same slopes. So that means that I can either have 0 or infinitely many. Now, in order to figure out what it's going to be, I now am going to move on and look at my y-intercepts. So, do I have same y-intercepts or different y-intercepts? I have different. So since I have the same slopes but different y-intercepts, that means I have parallel lines. So the number of solutions is going to be 0. See how I did that? We're just kind of walking through them, okay? Now, what happens if it gives me equations that are not in slope-intercept form? Well, I need to put them in slope-intercept form. Now, you may be wondering, how, Miss Shelley? How do I put these in slope-intercept form? Well, we're going to have to do a little subtracting and a little dividing. So let's take a look at my first one. I have 6x plus 2y equals 12. Now, I know for slope-intercept, I need it in the form of y equals mx plus b. So that means I need to get that y by itself. So in order to get that y by itself, I need to get rid of 6x. This 6x is positive, so I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. 6x minus 6x can cancel out, and that leaves me with 2y equals minus 6x plus 12. Now, we all know how to solve equations and how to divide. This is the one thing that's going to be a little different. I need to get that y by itself. I need it to be y equals, not 2y equals. So that means I need to divide this 2. Now, since I'm going to divide this 2 on this side of the equation, I have to divide everything on the other side of the equal sign by 2. Okay, so that means that divides negative 6x by 2. Divide 12 by 2. Divide everything by 2. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. So that leaves me with 1y or just y. Negative 6 divided by 2 gives me negative 3x. And then 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. Okay, so now I need to do the same thing to my second equation, okay? So that's 12x plus 4y equals 24. Remember, when you're solving these and putting these in y-intercept form, you need that y by itself. So this 12x is hindering me having y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 12x. That cancels out, and that leaves me with, 4y equals negative 12x plus 24. Now remember, I need it to be y equals, not 4y equals. So that means that I need to divide 4 by everything. Every single thing in this equation has to be divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1y, or y. Negative 12 divided by 4 gives me negative 3x. And 24 divided by 4 gives me plus 6. So now I can bring my two equations over here and I can compare. Y equals negative 3x plus 6 and y equals negative 3x plus 6. So let's take a look at these. First thing we're going to look at is our slope. Do I have same slope or different slopes? Same slopes. Since I have the same slopes, that means I need to move on and I need to look at my y-intercepts. Do I have the same y-intercepts or do I have different y-intercepts? I have the same. So since I have same slopes, same y-intercept, that means that my line is the same. So that means that the amount of solutions would be infinitely many. See, not too bad, right, guys? It's a little bit of equation work, but then you're just comparing and it's simple. Okay, so let's move on and look at another example. So now it still wants to know how many solutions does this system of equations have. So y equals x minus 3. That's already in y-intercept form. So I can just go ahead and rewrite that. I don't need to add, subtract, or divide anything. However, 4x minus 10y equals 6. That I got to put in slope-intercept form. So let's come over here and let's rewrite that. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of that 4x by subtracting 4x on both sides. Remember, you want to do the opposite. So that leaves me with negative 10y equals negative 4x plus 6. Okay, remember, you want it to be y equals, not negative 10y. So that means you're going to divide negative 10 by everything. Don't forget that negative 10 sign, okay? It's negative 10, not just 10. So negative 10 divided by negative 10 cancels out, and that leaves you with y equals, all right, so 10 does not evenly go into 4. So what we're going to do is put it in simplest forms. Remember, we can work with fractions. Fractions is okay. So let's put it in simplest form. What number goes evenly into both negative 4 and, well, actually we can get rid of our negative signs because negative, two negatives give us a positive. So what number goes evenly into both 4 and 10? 2. So 2 divided by 2 is, or 2 divided by 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5, so that's 2/5 x. Now, plus 6 minus 6, my answer is going to be negative. And then I can also divide 2 into both 6 and 10. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that means that my equation is y equals 2/5 x minus 3/5. So now I want to ask myself, do I have same slopes or different slopes? I have different. So it doesn't matter if my y-intercept are the same or if they're different, because once I have a different slope, that means that I automatically am going to have one solution. Okay, so as soon as you see that your slopes are different, you automatically know you got one solution. All right, let's just work out two more problems, okay? Let's take a look at x plus 3y equals 0 and the second equation of 12y equals negative 4x. Remember, we've got to put these equations in slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and begin with x plus 3y equals 0. So remember, we need to get the y by itself, so that means that we're going to subtract x on both sides. That cancels out, and that leaves me with 3y equals minus x. Now, I'm going to divide 3 by everything. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So it leaves me with y equals negative 1/3 x. Now, you can keep it as negative x over 3, or you can make it negative 1/3. I like to look at it as negative 1/3, but if you like it as negative x over 3, that's also fine. Whichever is easier for you. I think making it its own fraction and then putting x next to it is easier. So that's how I set mine up. So now let's do the same thing with 12y equals negative 4x. Remember, I need it to be y equals, not 12y equals. So in order to get rid of that 12, I need to divide by 12. So 12 divided by 12 cancels and gives me y equals. So now I need to simplify negative 4 and 12. What number goes evenly into both 4 and 12? 4. So that would be 4 divided by 4 gives me 1, and 12 divided by 4 gives me 3. So that leaves me with y equals negative 1/3 x. All right, so now I can take a look at my slopes. Oops, forgot the x. All right, so now I can take a look at my slope. Do I have same slope or different slopes? I have same, so that means that I'm either going to have parallel lines or lines that are the same. So since I have that, I need to go and I need to look at my y-intercepts. What's my y-intercept? Well, I don't have one. Since I don't have one, that means, and neither have one, that means I have the same. So that means that my final answer is infinitely many, because this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the same line. So that means I'm going to have infinitely many solutions. All right, guys, one last easy problem to get you started and get you ready to jump into today's work. So how many solutions does this system of equation have? All right, first things first, remember, we want to take a look at our our slopes. Do I have same slopes or different slopes? Different. As soon as you hear that word different, you automatically know that there is only one solution. All right, guys, that's today's lesson. It's really important that you make that chart. I promise you it is going to help you with this lesson, okay, guys? I want you to hop on back over to Teams. You got about 7 problems that I need you to do, and that's it. I miss you guys so much. I wish we were in class together right now.